I'm still, reeling. My therapist? Yeah, that guy. I slept with him. Just to see if he'd actually risk it all. And then? I reported him. And watched his license get yanked. Poof. Gone. Like he never even existed. It all started, I guess, a little over a year ago. I'm Brianna, by the way. 28, and let me tell you, it's been a ride. I was going through, well, a lot. My last relationship had imploded, and by imploded, I mean he just kinda evaporated. One day he was there, the next he was gone, leaving me with half the rent and a cat that looked at me like I was the problem. Typical, right? Always gotta be the woman's fault. So, my bestie, Chloe, she's like, Brianna, you need to talk to someone. Get it all out. And I'm like, fine, whatever. Anything to shut her up, you know? So I started seeing this guy, Dr. Miles. He was fine. A little older, maybe late 30s, early 40s? Salt and pepper hair, the kind that looks distinguished, not old. And those eyes, always watching, always listening. Like he was trying to figure out some big puzzle, and I was the missing piece. Honestly, I thought it was kinda hot. Not that I'd ever admit that to Chloe. She'd give me that look, the one that says, Brianna, you're about to do something stupid again. Which, fair, I usually am. Our sessions were interesting. At first, it was all the usual stuff. How I felt, what I thought, blah, blah, blah. He'd just nod, ask a few questions, scribble in his little notebook. I hated that notebook. What was he writing? Was he judging me? Probably. All these therapists, they just sit there, pretending to care, while secretly thinking you're a complete basket case. And maybe I am, but that's beside the point. One time, I was talking about my ex, how he just vanished. And Dr. Miles, he leaned forward, really looked at me, and said, Brianna, do you ever feel like you push people away? And I was like, excuse me? Push people away? He left me. Honestly, the nerve. I just stared at him for a second, then I just shut down. Crossed my arms, looked out the window. If he wanted to be disrespectful, fine. I could play that game. He quickly changed the subject, started talking about coping mechanisms or something equally boring. See? He got it. He knew not to push me. As the weeks went on, things started to shift. I mean, I was still talking about my problems, but it felt different. He started asking more personal questions, not just about my feelings, but about my life, my family, even my dreams. And he'd listen, really listen, without interrupting. He'd laugh at my jokes, even the crude ones. And sometimes, his eyes would linger a little too long when I was talking, especially if I was wearing something a little less. Not that I was trying to provoke him or anything. Just, being me. But a girl notices things. I started looking forward to our sessions. Which was weird, right? It was therapy. It was supposed to be, like, a chore. But it wasn't. It was the only time I felt truly heard, truly seen. He was always on my side, even when I was doing something kinda questionable. Like, I was having some issues at work, my boss is a total control freak, always breathing down my neck, demanding I actually do things. And I told Dr. Miles all about it, how unfair it was, how I was being targeted. And he just nodded, understanding. It sounds like a very difficult situation, Brianna. Your feelings are valid. See? He got it. Not like Chloe, who'd be like, are you sure you're doing your part? Like, ugh. I started thinking about him outside of sessions. What was he doing? Did he have a wife? Kids? He never wore a ring. I made a mental note of that the first session. He was always so put together, though. Perfect shirts, always smelled good. Like, really good. I even thought about looking him up online, but then I was like, nah, too much effort. Plus, if he had a wife, I didn't want to know. That would just complicate things. One session, I was talking about this new guy I was seeing. Or, trying to see. He was super hot, but also super flaky. Like, one minute he's all over me, the next he's ghosting for days. And I was telling Dr. Miles how frustrating it was, how I deserved better. And he got this look on his face, almost protective. He said, "Brianna, you deserve someone who truly values you, someone who will be consistent and reliable." And it was like, whoa. He really meant it. He really thought I deserved the best. That's when it hit me. He was the one who was consistent. He was the one who was reliable. He was the one who always made me feel good about myself. I started dropping hints. Really subtle ones at first. Like, I'd mention how lonely I was, how hard it was to find a good man these days. Or I'd casually bring up how I always felt like people misunderstood me, except for him. He'd just nod, listening intently. Then I started getting a little more direct. I'd wear clothes that were a little more revealing, lean forward when I talked, make eye contact that lasted a little too long. And I could see it. The way his eyes would flicker, the way he'd clear his throat, a tiny flush on his neck. He was noticing. Oh, he was definitely noticing. One day, I was crying in a session. Real tears, not the fake kind I usually pull out when I want to get my way. I was genuinely upset about something, I can't even remember what now, probably some stupid drama with a friend, or maybe my car broke down again. Whatever it was, I was really laying it on thick. And he came over, handed me a tissue box, and just sat there quietly. Then he said, "Brianna, it's okay to feel this way. You're incredibly strong, but even the strongest people need support." And he put his hand on my arm. Just for a second. But it was enough. The touch sent a jolt through me. It was like, okay, we're finally past the professional nonsense. This was real. The next few sessions were charged. He'd still try to keep it professional, but I could feel the tension, the unspoken something between us. I'd talk about my problems, and he'd offer advice, but then he'd say things like, "Brianna, you remind me a lot of someone I used to know." Or, "I feel like I understand you on a deeper level than most people." And I'd just smile, a little secret smile, knowing exactly what he meant. One Friday, my last session of the week, I was talking about how stressed I was with work, how I had no plans for the weekend, how I just wished I had someone to unwind with. And he looked at me, really looked at me, and said, "Brianna, sometimes it's good to just let loose. Do something unexpected." And he paused, like he was thinking. Then he said, "If you ever need someone to talk to, outside of this, professional setting, my office number is on the card. You could text it." He said it so quickly, like he was nervous. I almost laughed. This man was falling for me. Hard. I didn't text him that day. I wanted to make him wait. Make him wonder. Play a little hard to get. The whole weekend I was just buzzing. I could barely focus on anything. I was just replaying his words, his look, the way his hand had felt on my arm. Chloe was asking me what was up, why I was smiling like a maniac, and I just brushed her off. Nothing, just a good week. Between us, I wanted to scream, to tell her everything, but I knew she'd just lecture me about boundaries and professional ethics. Like, come on. This was different. This was us. Monday morning, I woke up and knew what I had to do. I pulled out his business card. I'd kept it in my wallet since the first session, just in case. His office number. I typed it in, fingers hovering over the send button. What if he didn't answer? What if he acted like he didn't know what I was talking about? What if he said no? A tiny pang of panic, but then I shook it off. He wanted this. I knew he did. I sent a simple text, "Hey, it's Brianna. Just wanted to say thanks for everything." It was agonizing, waiting. Like, a whole 5 minutes. Then my phone buzzed. It was him. Brianna. Of course. You're always welcome. My heart did a little flutter. See? He was hooked. We started texting more, little by little. First, it was just about how I was doing, how my week was going. Then it escalated. He'd ask if I was still seeing that flaky guy. I'd say no, he was a total waste of time. He'd say, good. You deserve better. And then one night, I texted him, I'm feeling really lonely tonight. And he replied almost instantly, I'm sorry to hear that, Brianna. Is there anything I can do? And that was it. That was my opening. I texted back, maybe. Are you busy? He paused for a bit. And I knew, in that moment, he was probably having an internal battle. His job, his ethics, all that boring stuff. But he'd already taken the bait. He was too far in. Finally, he texted back, no, I'm not busy. What did you have in mind? I suggested we grab a drink. Just to talk, I said. Nothing serious. Just two friends catching up. He agreed. I knew he would. We met at this quiet little bar, not too fancy, not too divey. He was already there when I arrived, sitting at a corner table, looking a little nervous. I walked up, and he stood up, a small smile on his face. Brianna. You look lovely. I was wearing my favorite black dress, the one that makes me look like I have my life together, even when I don't. We talked for hours. Not about my problems this time, but about everything else. His life, his experiences, things he couldn't talk about in therapy. He told me he was divorced, had been for a few years. No kids. My internal monologue, bingo. He even admitted he'd been feeling a little lonely himself lately. My turn to feel validated. See? I wasn't the only one. The drinks were flowing, and the conversation got more and more personal. He started telling me about his dreams, about how he felt like he was meant for more than just listening to other people's problems all day. And I just nodded, pretending to be all sympathetic, while secretly thinking, you're telling me, buddy. Get a life. But outwardly, I was all, oh, Dr. Miles, that's so insightful. You're so much more than just a therapist. Then he got really close, his voice a low whisper. Brianna, I feel like I can tell you anything. You understand me in a way no one else does. And he reached across the table and took my hand. His hand was warm, a little shaky. And I just let him hold it. I knew exactly what was happening. This wasn't just about connection anymore. This was about something else. Something forbidden. And honestly, I was curious. Could he really throw away his whole career for me? For a quick fling? I wanted to see how far he'd go. We had a few more drinks, and then he asked if I wanted to come back to his place. Just to continue the conversation, he said, his eyes darting around like he was afraid someone would hear him. I smiled, a little too sweetly. Sure, Dr. Miles. I'd love to continue the conversation. His apartment was nice. Clean, minimalist. A lot of books. Typical therapist, right? We sat on his couch, and the conversation, well, it quickly devolved. Or, evolved, depending on how you look at it. He started talking about how much he cared about me, how he felt this incredible connection to me. And I just let him talk, letting him dig his own grave, so to speak. Then he leaned in, and he kissed me. It wasn't a gentle kiss either. It was desperate, hungry. Like he'd been wanting to do it for ages. And I kissed him back. Not because I was into him, not really. But because I wanted to see it through. I wanted to see how far this would go. One thing led to another. And then another. And then we were in his bed. And it was fine. Nothing spectacular, but not awful either. Just a normal, slightly awkward, slightly thrilling encounter. He kept apologizing, whispering things like, "I shouldn't be doing this, Brianna. This is so unprofessional." And I'd just shush him, telling him it was okay, telling him I wanted this too. Lying, of course. But he didn't need to know that. The next morning, it was awkward. He was all flustered, trying to make coffee, asking if I wanted breakfast. I just wanted to get out of there. I mean, the experiment was complete. I had my answer. He would risk it. And now, it was time for the next phase. I played it cool. "Thanks for everything, Dr. Miles. That was interesting." I watched his face fall a little. He was expecting something more, something emotional. But I wasn't giving him that. I was already planning my next move. I went home, showered, and then I called Chloe. "You are not going to believe what I just did," I told her, trying to sound breathless and shocked, like I was still processing it. She was like, "Brianna, what did you do now?" And I laid it all out for her, embellishing a little here and there, making it sound like he was the one who initiated everything, the one who was totally inappropriate from the start. I mean, yeah, I dropped hints, but he was the therapist. He was supposed to be, like, the responsible one. Right? Chloe was horrified. "Brianna, you can't be serious. You slept with your therapist? That's a huge ethical violation. You have to report him." And I was like, "I know, right? It's just so shocking. I feel so used." I even managed to squeeze out a few fake tears for good measure. See? Weaponized vulnerability. Works every time. So, I looked up the licensing board. Found the number. And I called them. I explained everything, making sure to paint myself as the victim, the confused, vulnerable patient who was taken advantage of. I talked about how he had groomed me, how he had blurred the lines, how he had abused his position of power. I even mentioned the hand on my arm, the whispered reassurances, the private texts. Every detail was carefully selected to make him look like the predatory one. I left out my part, of course. My little experiment. My curiosity. My need to see him fall. Those were just private thoughts. They took it seriously. Oh, they took it very seriously. They told me they'd open an investigation. They'd contact him. And they did. I got calls from them regularly, asking for more details, clarifying things. And I just kept repeating my story, making sure it was consistent, making sure I sounded innocent and hurt. He tried to contact me. Texted me, called me, left voicemails. He sounded panicked, confused, devastated. "Brianna, please, tell them it wasn't like that. You know it wasn't. We had a connection." I ignored every single one. Like, why would I respond? I had what I wanted. He was panicking. His life was unraveling. And it was all because of me. A few weeks later, I got the letter. The official letter. His license was revoked. Permanently. The board found him guilty of multiple ethical violations, including sexual misconduct with a patient. It said he was barred from practicing therapy anywhere in the state. And the best part? It said he couldn't apply for reinstatement for at least 5 years, and even then, it would be highly unlikely he'd ever get it back. I read that letter, and honestly? A little surge of triumph went through me. Like, yeah. I did that. I took him down. Because he deserved it. He risked everything, didn't he? He thought he could get away with it. But he couldn't. Not with me. Chloe was like, "Are you okay? Do you need anything?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'm fine. Just, processing it all." But really, I was just savoring the moment. It's been a few months now. I haven't heard anything from him. I assume he's completely destroyed. Good. That's what he gets for thinking he could mess with me. I mean, sure, I probably should have seen this coming. I've always been a little impulsive. And yeah, maybe I pushed him a little. But he was the professional, right? He was supposed to have the self-control. He was supposed to know better. It's not my fault he couldn't keep it in his pants. It's his own dumb fault. He should have known the rules. I ran into his wife once. Well, his ex-wife, I guess. At the grocery store. She was looking a little ragged, honestly. Hair a mess, just wearing sweats. She looked sad, like she'd been crying. And she gave me this look, like she knew. Like she knew everything. My inner thought, bitch, if you were a better wife, maybe he wouldn't have been looking elsewhere. But I just smiled politely, grabbed my organic kale, and walked away. Not my problem. Her choices led to her sadness, not mine. I'm still single, obviously. And honestly, it's fine. Guys are just a lot of work. Always demanding things, always wanting to know where you are, what you're doing. It's exhausting. And dating apps are just a cesspool of disappointment. But whatever. I'm good. I don't care anymore. People can say what they want about me. They can call me toxic, they can say I'm an unreliable narrator, they can say I show zero accountability. But you know what? I'm just being me. And if people can't handle that, that's their problem, not mine. I just wanted to see if he'd risk it. And he did. He made his choice. And he faced the consequences. It's just funny, isn't it? How life works out. You think you're in control, and then boom, something happens, and suddenly everything's upside down. And you just have to, roll with it. And make sure you come out on top. Always. No matter what. I mean, I'm not saying I regret anything. Things turned out a certain way. And it wasn't ideal, for him anyway. But it was his fault. Not mine. Never mine. So yeah, I slept with my therapist just to see if he'd risk it, and then reported him and watched his license get pulled. And I'd do it again if someone else was dumb enough to fall for it. It's not my problem they're so easily fooled. Do you think I should tell Chloe the full, unfiltered truth? I mean, she already thinks I'm a mess, what's the worst that could happen?